The following program deals with controversial subjects. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
Tonight on This Week in Redacted.
A trail camera captures some disturbing footage. Do we finally have a ghost on film? Actress Melissa Barrera weighs in on her views of media bias and is immediately fired. But is it justified? We finally have a good laugh in the r/aliens subreddit together. Let's celebrate. And finally, life finds a way. Could you tell if this animal is fact or fiction? All this and the tales of Redacted. With your hosts, Chris and Brian. This is This Week in Redacted.
Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another week on This Week in Redacted. I am Ryan, one of your two hosts, and this is the weekly podcast where we examine every single week the most abnormal news as presented by Reddit. Now, we do this in a couple different big categories, that being aliens, conspiracies, cryptozoology, and of course, conspiracy. And I already said that. Oh my God, paranormal. Paranormal's the last one. So basically, what we do is we have like a whole bunch of subreddits that filter into these big categories. We take a look at the end of the week at which had the most upvotes for that category, and then Chris and I take a look at it from the perspective of a skeptic and a true believer. And on that note, with me, as always, is Chris Redacted. Chris, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. I'm looking at my bags under my eye, man. I need more sleep or something. Gotta put some cucumbers on it. I just focused in on my face and I was like, whoa, I need to sleep a little bit more.
You heard it first here. A voice for radio and a face for radio.
I didn't shave. I need to cut the hair. I need to do everything, you know. I gotta look the part.
Well, what does a true believer look like to you?
I don't know.
I picture bags under the eyes.
A movie star. That's what he looks like.
A movie star. Hey, we have a couple movie stars to talk about this week. I don't know if you
absolutely.
saw the articles. Yeah.
I was gonna say it was like she was hot.
Oh my God, you're gonna just open up with that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Well, hey, let's hop into it. Let's take a look at the conspiracy.
Copy that.
So this is coming in from the conspiracy subreddit. Absolutely insane with about 3K upvotes. Most people thinking that this is pretty good. Variety reports that Melissa Barrera was fired from the Scream franchise after floating an anti-Semitic trope that Jews control the media in an Instagram story. You know, that's where real news happens now, is on Instagram. Right?
Absolutely. That and TikTok, apparently.
Yeah, so she's got a quote on here. Western media only shows the other side. Why they do that, I will let you deduce for yourself. So what do you think about this one, Chris?
Okay, so she's saying that, it's like, I've always heard this, right? I've heard this before, that there's two political powers in the media that control everything, right? And I'm gonna go tinfoil hat, put it on. Everybody put it on, please. So I've heard, right? And please nobody get offended by the words that I'm gonna use, because I've heard this many years and I don't believe in this, but I've heard this before, that there's two sides that control the media, right? Everything, movies, music, everything. That there's the Jewish side that controls it and the gay mafia controls it. I've never known anyone from either or to say that they control it. I don't know. Maybe I just not connected like that, even though I live in Los Angeles. And I mean, comedians have talked about in the past that you never make fun of the Jewish, powers that be in it, because they delete your career, right? Like, I don't know if you ever heard stand-ups say that specifically. They say it an alarming amount, like jokingly, like, you never talk about the Jewish people because they'll delete you. And I've heard that. I've heard this from multiple comedians. I'm not going to say which ones. You could look it up. They kind of jokingly say it. And before that, in my early days when I wanted to be an actor and also a screenwriter, I would also hear that it's like, well, you got to be in with the gay mafia that runs Hollywood. And I was like, what? And I've heard that, or the Jewish, you know, co- collective that runs Hollywood, and there's these two collectives and they're at war. And it's never been said, it's never been stated, it's never been written down, but I've heard this, and I don't know about you if you've heard this, and I don't know if it's true.
Well, I have a clip. I think let's play the clip and then we can
Let's
I'll
hear
get
the
into
clip.
it a little bit. Yeah, because this is really an important thing. You can hear the shared audio, right?
Yeah, usually I can.
Okay, great. So here we go.
No, I can't. Not on this one. But I've seen this before.
I thought it was funny that you brought up the comedian, right? The whole thing with
But it
Norm
is.
Macdonald.
I've heard many comedians talk about that. I was like, oh, it's like, oh, he messed up because he started talking about, this specific group, and they like axe him. I've heard this many comedians, and it's only been comedians that I've heard that. I've never heard any movie stars or any musicians talk about it openly. And if it is, it'll be something like this, right? And I guess that's where the conspiracy is, that that the powers that be in Hollywood or music industry is that it's run by two specific collectives. And if you
I've
talk
never
about
heard the
them,
gay mafia. Like that's actually new to me. I
I
haven't heard that
yeah,
one.
well, being in Los Angeles, I worked with a lot of people that wanted to be actors, and I would hear
Uh-huh.
that. It says, yeah, if you're not in with the Jewish collective, then you have to get in with the gay collective, is what I would hear, right? And like, no, hopefully I'm not offending anybody by this, but that's what I used to hear, and I was like, oh, really? That's interesting.
All right, so here's my take on it. I've definitely, because I grew up in Southern California too, and it's interesting. I didn't realize that you wanted to be an actor and a screenwriter earlier
At some
on.
point of yeah, I wanted
Well,
to be
Chris,
Quentin Tarantino, and I worked at a video store, the same
I knew
thing,
the
and
video
that's what I
store. Yeah,
was a
man.
manager of a video store, video club of Los Angeles, no longer exists, because DVD, VHS, and I think I told you about this.
Yeah, yeah. I knew the
But
video store thing, but I didn't know the screenwriting thing. So that's
yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor, like in my early days, and I didn't do any serious things at all. Like I would go with one of my friends that he was trying to be an actor, and he was like, "Hey, there's this, call. I think you would have to call in, right? And it would tell you like, hey, there's openings. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's like call-ins, and you would show up, and it was like extras, and it was just to be an extra in it. And if they liked you or you fit the criteria, then they would call you back, and they kept calling you back. And my friend Steve at the time, he was doing that, and he was trying to be a screenwriter, and I would just go tag along for like moral support. And at the end of the day, I realized I was like, man, I think I kind of want to do this, but it doesn't pay the bills. Like,
no,
let's be real.
no. I had tons of friends come in to Los Angeles and just have their, I wouldn't say have their lives decimated, but they definitely had a reality call when they came in thinking they were going to be the hot new screenwriter or hot new actor,
Dime a
actress. And
dozen, bro. Dime a
yeah.
dozen. That's what it really is.
Well, it's a dime a dozen, and also it takes chance and it takes,
It's like winning
skill.
the lottery. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah, but getting
It's
back to the
like,
conspiracy stuff real
go
quick,
on.
my take on this is I think it's absolutely absurd. I hate this stereotype that has always been around, and it's so absurd to me because I think what it comes down to is it's a kind of othering, and even as you're talking right now about the dime a dozen, it is a great story to blame another group on why you failed your your lottery pick. That's my take.
No, see,
Is
I agree with you, because there's a lot of like actors that get there and don't last, right? And then they start blaming other things. And I don't know if this is
Yeah.
what happened to her.
Yeah.
But dime a dozen, because now there's another girl that's probably hotter. Like in Los Angeles, like you can see eight, nines, and tens all places. Like that's just what it is here.
Well, yeah, and for
And
again, for people who are watching, obviously everyone knows about the ongoing conflict in Israel and Palestine, right? And that these groups have horrific relationship, and you have an actress who's coming out, and I would actually say that her claim here, I don't have any problem with a claim about media bias, right? And saying okay, well, you're only telling one side of the story. People should be looking at the other story. Which, if you look at the quote, it's kind of in that vein. I'm being a little too fair to it, I think, but Western media only shows you the other side. Why they do that, I'll let you deduce for yourself. Is just kind of. I'm with
I mean,
the
she's
message.
poking the bear, though. That if you really
Yeah,
think about it,
yeah.
that's what she's doing. Like, she's actively saying, like, "Hey, the Jewish media controls everything, and they're only showing you the side that they want you to see. We're not truly seeing the atrocities that are really happening over there." And I think that's what she's trying to say. It just came out really, really, really bad. I guess it's best. I don't have words for it, but
I don't
she
think it
fucked
even
up.
accurately represents what's going on in the media either, because in my experience of looking, seeing what's going on, I'm seeing people on both sides. And maybe that's because the algorithm knows that I'm very centrist and I want to see
Yeah,
both
I
sides.
see both. I see the effed up things on one side and the effed up things on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's back and forth. They're just at war. These people have been fighting for
Yep.
not forever, because that's also the misconception people have. Like, they haven't been fighting for thousands of years. They've been fighting for maybe like 50 years, and now it's just like progressively getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And
Yeah.
it's a very debatable, topic. I don't like talking about it.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't like it either. I think for one, I'm not like neither of us are qualified. Let's just be
no,
real, right? Like
I've
we're not
watched like
living it.
4 or 5 YouTube videos explaining everything, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, they explain the first conflict, the second conflict, the third conflict, and the fourth conflict. I think that's what they're at, right? But before that, it doesn't explain like what happened, like how did it get to that point. And there's other videos that I've watched that explain that, but there's so much going on that this isn't even the first time this has happened. It's not even the second time this has happened. It's not even the third time this has happened. So it's just a very complicated situation, and it takes turns, goes back and forth, back and
It's complicated, and for anyone watching, it's okay not to have an opinion on it. It's okay to not take sides. It's okay to just say that you don't understand fully what's going on because you're not living that experience. And this is the kind of thing that I think when I see people protesting, very impassioned, like Channel Five had. I don't know if you saw the Channel Five
forth. Mm-mm.
reports they did. Basically, they interviewed people pro Palestine and people pro Israel on two separate videos, right? And you know, the people that they interviewed are living those experiences. They're the ones that we should be listening to, and you don't have to agree with everything everyone says. You don't have to take a strong stance. And I think that that's also a trap that this actress fell into, is maybe she felt really impassioned to say that there's some kind of, I mean, she's implying that there's some kind of like unfairness, right? Like that's what she's implying in the statement.
Well, she's implying that the Jewish controlled media is only showing you their side.
Yeah, well, but that's the unfairness that I'm talking
Yeah.
about, right? Is that there's like a bigger, broader view, and half the side is only being shown, right? And that her voice is the one that's going to elevate out the other side. Meanwhile, fucking Twitter is going like 24/7 with people saying shit left and right about both sides of the art, both sides of Palestine and Israel. So I don't really see that she's one made an impact with a statement like this, right? It seems like it's kind of like
No.
virtue signaling to me in a lot of ways. And the other thing is like whether or not she got fired. Like, have you seen the Scream movies, like the ones that her and Jenna Ortega were in?
The remake, not at
Yeah,
all.
fucking terrible. They're just god awful. Like
You're
Jenna
mean,
Ortega,
bro.
she's cool. Like Jenna Ortega is an actual, like, I don't know if you've seen You. She's in You, and she does a great job in that. I liked most of Wednesday. I think it had a good vibe for most of it, and then it
You're
kind
just
of
saying that because you think she's hot.
no, dude, come on. I mean, she's a lovely actress, but I think she did play the role really well.
What did it
Well enough
get?
for
Like, let's see, review wise. Like, what? Oh,
oh, people
I mean,
people
it got
loved
a
it.
70. It got a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes, bro. Defeated the
70,
Rotten Tomato.
yeah, 76 is great
Defeated.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, for the Scream, the remake. Not what is
Oh,
it a
for
remake?
that, it's like a continuation of Scream. So, man, Scream has broken my heart as a franchise because when it first came out, the whole point of Scream was that it was a kind of parody and love letter to the horror genre, and then it just became this like dark warped perversion of itself as it kept on going and going and going and going.
I mean, they all do that. Look at Saw. Like Saw 1 and 2 are
Whew.
Saw 1 is probably objectively one of the best horror movies. And if you've never seen it, sorry, spoilers ahead, is the ending where he just gets up, blew my mind when it happened. That I was like, "Oh my God, this is such a great horror film." And I was amazed. And then each version just like watered it down to the point where it became like terrible. Like the last one was I can't even what number 10 I think
Yeah,
they're on.
I just watched 10
But
too. How
yeah,
funny.
because it makes money and you're like you're gonna give it a bat. You know, you're gonna be like let me watch this, right? And I think that's what happens with the Scream movies. It's like, you know, the first one is a cult classic. Like it's hilarious. Like, you know, it's funny you're talking about Scream, but I was watching a scary movie. Chris
Great
Elliott,
movie.
God, man, is amazing.
So
And if
good.
you've never seen it, dude, Chris Elliott in Scream 2, the
So
hold my
good.
strong hand,
So good, man. So
dude.
good.
The Thanksgiving feast where he's just like, you just want to just cram it in there.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh my god, so
Oh
good.
my God, dude, he's a comedic genius. I love him.
Yeah.
Where
So,
do you like? We digress.
which is fine. I mean, we're talking about, it's on the level, right?
It is on a level, but I don't feel bad for her. Like it's like you common, you know, Ryan and common Chris know that like, hey, you don't say things like this. Things like this that could get you potentially in trouble. And if this is your career, like you would not say this. Like,
Well, that's my whole point. I don't even think this is brave for her to say. Like, if you're, she's coming at this like, I've got this huge platform and I'm going to say something brave that the world needs to hear. Like, come on. Like, that's why I was bringing up Twitter. You go on Twitter, you start to look up this shit, and like I said, 50-50 split, people just fighting left and right about it. It's
that's
not like
you know,
they're,
Twitter in a nutshell. That's what it is. Like, man,
well, yeah,
even Reddit is like that too.
Twitter as a proxy for quote unquote media. Now she's probably referencing big media, the network channels and stuff like that. I don't really spend a lot of time watching network channels, and quite frankly, most of the people I know nowadays, they don't either. They get their news from online sources.
That's exactly. Yeah, no big media, like none of that.
Yeah, I mean, look at the ratings that CNN has gotten over the last couple years. CNN has just tanked. No one trusts the goddamn word those people say. No one trusts the information that's coming out of their mouths when they report, unless they're reading something directly verbatim from the AP. In which case, you just go to the AP, where they're going to be as much more biased,
You're
right?
fake news.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
what you sound like right now. Hey, you're fake news.
Dude,
Next.
they're all trying to get clicks. I mean, it's one thing when it's like YouTubers like us. By the way, if you're watching and you're enjoying our friendly banter, please like and subscribe as it helps get our ass out onto the internet. Um, but yeah, like it's just it's all legacy stuff. I don't trust it. I don't trust a lot of it. And even like so I would put an asterisk by science reporting because I feel like science reporting is kind of it's an area where it doesn't get a lot of clicks innately, but even over the last 10 years, that shit has changed so dramatically to the point where you can't even trust studies that are being reported by journalists on big sites like CNN or I don't watch Fox News, but Fox News would be another one or MSNBC, right? Like
Yeah, all
they
of those are. Don't they like redact stuff like all the time?
yeah, but you know where they do it is they do it on their website. They don't like
Yeah, it's
actually
like
put it on their show for people to like listen.
no. So then it gets put out there, and if it's any information, it's like misinformation, or you know, and it gets put out there, and everybody believes it. But then on their website, you're right. It's like they redacted the article, or you know, saying like, hey, corrections here, you know, there. But
Yeah, and they don't even put it on their front page half the time. And to be fair, I haven't looked in a long time, but there was, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, I was looking into something about a redaction, and it was like hidden away on one of the side pages or something ridiculous.
Or it takes
So
them a long time to do it. I can't remember what it was that I read some article about that they like they gave all the incorrect information and it got proven that it was incorrect and they left the article up there for months. And the person that was like fighting them was like, "Hey, I keep telling you, I keep sending cease and desist, keep doing that." And finally, like they took it. I think they just took it down. They didn't even redact it. Like, and that's how they, the person that wrote the article was just like, "Yeah, it's not. We're not taking it down." And it stayed. It stayed. It did its damage. I can't. It was for like some type of small business, and they reported it.
yeah, despicable. But getting back to the conspiracy girl here,
Yes.
right? She's terrible in the Scream movie. Her and Jenna Ortega were terrible in the Scream movie. I guess the other
Oof.
piece here is Jenna Ortega. Let me see if I can find it real quickly. Uh,
Smart thing to do is just not comment.
yeah, so Jenna Ortega has come
Ooh.
out and quit the Scream franchise. But here's the thing. Like I said, she's fucking terrible in it. Like she no emotion the entire movie. Like she was literally one of the worst parts of that movie. Like to be
Jenna
fair,
Ortega or the other girl, Melissa?
both of them were terrible. But there was another actor that was in it. I forget his name. He's usually good. Terrible as well. So the whole franchise just took, in my opinion, a dive on the last one. So I'm not concerned about them professionally. This isn't gonna like hurt their careers or anything. It also wasn't particularly brave or smart. If you have stuff to say, that's fine. I think you should
Say
say
it on
it,
Twitter.
right? That's what I mean. That's what happened. Well, Twitter instead of Instagram. Is that
Yeah,
what
say
you're
it on.
implying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just different platform.
All right. So here's my big question to you: is there a conspiracy to throw out anybody that is pro-Palestine and their views on the popular media?
I'm I'm gonna say no.
I'm also going to say no. I think it's probably racist, probably a whole bunch of othering, and it's just complete bullshit. So that's a no. Let's hop on to the next one. And by the way, we just solved that for everybody. So if you're curious what the correct answer was, that was the correct answer. All right. Oh man, let's hop into aliens. This is going to be great.
Copy.
All right, coming in from our aliens with about 6K upvotes, about 80% spice rating. So most people are, there's a heavy disagreement here. About 1,000 comments. We have a meme. That's where we're at in this point in
Oh
time. We're
man.
on memes. Found this photo in my late grandmother's heart locket. She was a military wife. What does it mean?
Oh my god. I hope you read the comment, right? Like there was one that was like, oh my god, 10 out of 10. Did you read the one where it says US government here? That's Thorlub. He's a ladies' man in Area 51. I'm sorry, bro, but your grandma must have fallen for him like all the other military wives all the time.
Oh
Of the
man,
time.
I didn't
Uh,
even open this one up.
that
There
was
we go. All right, here
amazing.
we go. Here we go. Here we go. All
That
right.
was like, that's all I read, but that was amazing. Like, why does she
That's
have a locket? A heart locket of an alien. It's like
yeah. I
US
mean,
government.
at this point, people are just. Here's what I like about this: people are just having fun in
Yeah,
our
like it was
aliens.
just it's like who even knows if this is like what is like how we always say like what's the source? Like what you know if someone's making this up, but oh man.
Yeah,
The memes
just
are just too strong in this one.
straight up memes this week. So not a lot. And here's where things get interesting because, and I was really hoping that you had watched the Joe Rogan interview with what's his face, whistleblower Gresham. Gresham.
Yeah, Gresham.
Gresham. Yeah. I was really hoping that you'd watch the whistleblower interview with Gresham because I figured that would fill the space for the absolute no information. But there is one other article. So first of all, let's both agree that this is just a week to have fun with aliens. There's nothing
Absolutely. It was
notable going
nothing.
on. Yeah. Okay. But the big things were Gresham's interview on Joe Rogan. So that happened this week, and we'll probably end up talking about that next week because that's when people will start to have opinions on things, and it will probably show up as the number one post next week. But did you see the anonymous post on the Malaysian Flight 370?
No.
Ooh. Oh boy. So this was a fun one. Let me get this
What was this
loaded.
on?
Oh man, I sent it to you in the podcast channel. Um, so
Oh,
go ahead
see,
and
I
play
just
this
saw it right
along.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, play this at the same time because I think we're having a little trouble with the stuff.
All right, I'm
Let's
listening
take
to
a
it.
look at this one. So 17 minutes. It's a little bit long to play today, but I want to highlight a few interesting key points. Let me just get back to the podcast channel. There we go. Okay, so we should be back now. So anonymous basically. Hold on. Let me put a marker for editing. Woo. So anonymous basically came out with an affirmation of flight 370, the Malaysia Airlines flight. For people who don't know what this is a flight that completely fell off the face of the planet. It sparked a whole series of controversial multinational government like how do you even describe it? Like it's they all worked together, they all worked against each other
Who,
in order.
anonymous?
No, I'm talking about just the governments. I'm just giving some context on the Malaysia Flight 370. So 370 is just a plane that disappeared. It was in Malaysia. I believe it was flying to Vietnam, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So flying there.
Or maybe it was even flying to China. No, it was like,
Well, uh, there's some details in the video here, but it disappeared and it sparked a like the crew is gone. Everyone on that plane is gone. So
it's a super rabbit hole for those of you who have never got into. Because I remember when I shared it with you, Ryan, you were like, "What? How did I miss this?" I was like, "Bro, this is like the ultimate. Like, there's conspiracy theory, aliens, like." Just a bunch of weird stuff, right? And we keep talking about this, keep coming back to this. And the funny thing is, Anonymous did make this video, and it's like, hey, it's time that we start talking about this.
yeah, so here's a couple highlights because this might actually show up next week too. Like this will be a contender, I think, next week for top news, just given the details. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappearance. Basically, they were flying on March 8th, 2014, during a flight basically to Beijing. It was a Boeing 777 with 227 passengers and 12 crew members. So they disappeared. They fell off the radar. People were like, did they get blown up? Did they basically get hijacked? There was all these theories that were, going through the internet that people were trying to figure out. The governments were trying to figure out because again, it's an international flight, so you're going to have different airspaces, different radars. There's a Netflix documentary that's really interesting about this, and lots of chatter online about it. But the thing that cropped up that's most interesting, I think, for us is the whole aliens aspect. So this
The
is like,
alien aspect keeps popping up. It's like it keeps coming up over and over and over again. And I don't know if it's like rehashed information, but then someone finds something else, and then something else, and then something else. I mean, it's weird that a plane just vanished off the face of the earth. Like they've never really found any of the remains of it. Like you could hear, this and that once in a while, like, hey, they found like maybe like a piece of the airplane, but hasn't even been confirmed. And it's just like it's just such a strange thing.
yeah, so the key points in this are again, hasn't been confirmed. However, the government has decided that they found adequate wreckage to say that it was crashed. There's a lot of holes in that story. And when I'm talking about holes, meaning someone found a piece of material that, again, they go over this in the Netflix documentary, that looks like it was potentially part of a 777. However, it didn't have any markings that tied it to the Malaysia Airlines specific Boeing. And on top of that, it was very conveniently the only piece of wreckage that showed up, and you would expect to have more wreckage. And so it felt very planted and just kind of like
Was it a? It was a wing, right? Like I think,
it was a
or one of the
portion
a
of it. It was
portion
like
of the wing.
yeah, a small component. It was easily enough identifiable as a 777, but I don't think it had. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but I don't think it had any like stamps on it, right, for like part numbers and stuff like that. It was vague enough that that people who weren't satisfied with that as an answer were not going to be satisfied at all with it. And it was also, there was someone, I'm trying to remember, it was this dude who said basically, I'm going to go find a piece of the wreckage. And then he flew straight down to right where the wreckage was. And it was like, felt very staged. It felt very not authentic. So anyhow, all this happens and a bunch of time passes. And then this footage that you're seeing in the background right here started to crop up on the UFO subreddits. And what we're seeing is an alleged encounter of some kind. Now, on the UFO subreddit, of course, these are UFOs that are hijacking the plane. And you'll see in the background, there's several orbs that are circling from two different vantage points, right? There's 3 orbs that are circling, and then they kind of converge in a very specific pattern towards the center of the plane, and then everything just flashes and it like disappears. And so you'll have to go onto the alien subreddit or the UFO subreddit in order to get the full details. There's tons of posts in there. And I think we probably even talked about it on the podcast before. But people are just completely enthralled with this. And the big news this week is Anonymous has come out with this video that they just posted like in the middle of the night on their official YouTube, whatever official means for Anonymous, I don't really know. And they've got a basic game plan here. They're saying this is authentic. This is what really happened. I don't think that they're saying that it's aliens. I think that it could be some other just like teleportation technology or something that they're making a claim in here. But yeah.
You know what's so crazy to me about the whole thing, right? That the piece that they found was confirmed by the U.S. government, right? Even though it was a Malaysian air flight in Malaysian airspace. And the piece that they found was a horizontal stabilizer. That's the part that like flips, like moves. So it'll cause catastrophic failure if that part flops. It'll either go straight up and stall or go like nosedive down. So it's conspiracy theory right now, and conspiracy nuts are saying that how convenient that that's what they found, because
it
that
is
would
very
say like
convenient.
that's what caused the crash and the story. Like I was like, you're telling me the people say like it's one of the most fragile pieces, and that's what they found. Like, get the fuck out of here.
That shit's
You know,
fishy.
it's super fishy, right? And there's just so many things going like what there's procedures like horizontal stabilizer procedures, like if it fails there's like a whole list of things that need to happen, and it reads fishy.
Now, here's a big claim that's made in the video. And the big claim is that we had previously talked on here about this footage being fabricated by After Effects or Fusion or any of the video editing, effects generation tools. One of the big claims on here is that they have ruled that out, that the footage is actually authentic. And what's interesting is that,
But the problem is they were saying that it was a drone that copied it, right? That recorded it. But the drones that they have in the sequence on it at the bottom left, you could read it, they didn't have cameras. And that's my problem with it.
So Anonymous has basically, they're making a claim that the footage is authentic and unedited. Now, I can't make a claim about the footage, and I think that's one of the issues that we had earlier was that, we look at it and it looks very cool. It looks very otherworldly, right? And it comes from a believable source, which is it's a military drone that's got 2 different angles. And the issue is that, and this is an issue that I think has just been for everybody, is, we'll look at like a 20-page post on this on the alien subreddit, right?
Probably.
And your eyes just go crooked because you're like, okay, there's just too many details in here.
Well, there's too many people putting out details out there too, right? The details that I found out about this drone was someone put it up there saying this is the model of drone, and they leaked the wiki, and then I looked at the wiki, and the wiki says like this doesn't have a recording capabilities.
Well, again, so the point that I'm trying to make, right, is that everyone's coming at it from very different angles,
Yes.
and there's no way that either of us can confirm
Yeah, because
any
I'm
of this
one of
bullshit.
I'm one of those that is coming from the right side, and I
Yeah.
have the whole subreddit coming at me from the left side, and then someone's coming
Yep.
from the top, someone's coming from the bottom, someone's already there. It's just like it's one of the like I personally like as much as I respect Anonymous, like I do not believe this is real.
I
It's
think it
too
looks cool. It looks
and
so cool.
it look I okay, that's what I thought, right? And then someone broke it down. Like somebody kept on like posting and breaking it down. Like I am as much as I'm the believer, like I don't think this is real. I think
I
it's
want to believe that this was like, I don't want to believe that this was aliens. I want to believe that we figured out teleportation and that this was like a botched attempt.
and they
And
made the plane disappear.
yeah, but at that point I've made
Or
up
they
this whole
crashed
movie
it.
in my mind, right? Like it's like Lost 2, you know, it's so very far from reality on that one.
I mean, maybe they've been doing this since like, the 40s and those planes that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, like they never like they vanished off the face of the earth too. And it could have been like starting then, and just every so often we'll have some planes that like just they don't understand like how they crashed. They've been trying to get them to teleport. And what's one easy way to try this ability is like on an airplane, because all we can say at the end of the day is like it crashed.
Why test it on civilians though? Like that's
Why
the
not,
thing.
man?
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
They
sure, why
tested
not?
syphilis on us, bro. What do you mean?
Yeah, why
Right
not?
now they're testing fluoride on us. That's another route.
Hey, not in Oregon. Oregon does not have fluoride in the water. All right.
California does.
Yeah, maybe in California, that's where they're testing. That and all the like sprays that they put out in the air. Do you remember that shit?
Malathion, bro.
Yeah,
Like
malathion. Yeah,
oh my god, bro. I survived malathion.
yeah, I did too. I remember they would basically sell us like, cover up your cars, close your windows, malathion spraying.
I
So
mean,
we survived
it
it.
was said to control mosquitoes, right? Like I think that's what it was. But they were saying that all they were doing is really they were poisoning us. I've
Well,
never even
they
gone
changed my
down.
genes clearly. Like
That's
I'm
what
not
they were
even
saying.
human
Like
at this point.
I don't even know, but I knew as a kid is like you don't go out these specific times, like cover your cars if possible, and it was to kill the fruit fly. I think is what they were
That was
doing.
the fruit fly.
The intrusive fruit fly in Los Angeles and all of Southern California.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, getting back to the Malaysia stuff, what would it take? Okay, so here's a question for you, right? Let's say wifey went on a flight.
Okay, wait. Let me. We don't even need to tell you. Like, you don't even like need to give a scenario. I think it's too good. It's too perfect. The video's too perfect.
Oh, okay.
That's my problem with it.
Okay. All right.
Like
So you're
I
tossing it up.
believe it. I believe it. I believe, as you were saying, like teleportation, and maybe it is aliens, maybe it is, U.S. government tech that somehow effed up. Like I believe it, but it's too perfect, and that's my problem with it. Because I'm gonna be mad if it's fucking fake. Like if it's 100% fake, and that's why I was just like, no. I'm convincing myself that it's supposedly a drone. The drones don't have video recording. Like, how did they record this? Who recorded this? How did they get it? Where did it come from? How did it get leaked? It's too perfect. It would explain a lot of things. There's so much. Oh my god.
Yeah, but the horizontal piece of the plane that is load bearing is also too perfect.
Oh my god.
There's
You are not
two
wrong.
perfect answers right there. So this is
You're
what I
not
was
wrong.
getting at, right? This is what I want to ask you. Let's say wifey's on the plane, on this plane, she disappears, right? You're heartbroken, you're grieving, you don't know what's going on. What would be an adequate answer to put an end to this chapter of your life?
I find like the plane. They find the plane complete because they have in the past. So why can't they find it this time? Like, is it really at the? I understand maybe they don't have the money to do it. Like the government may not have it, or they don't even have. They don't care to find it. And I think if that was me, I would want to know that. And I think people, that's what they're doing. There's so much unknown about this
Yep.
that that's why this keeps being put out there, because we still don't know what happened to it. There's still only one piece. Like, no, it's like I've seen it. Like you look up like history of, let's say flight, 222, it crashed like 30 years ago, and they'll have like an image of the plane being rebuilt because they're able to find everything, that like crashed in the ocean. But this one, there's only one little piece. So that's why there's so many things like this that keep getting repeated. And it's just
So
too perfect.
the true believer needs to have the whole plane rebuilt and bodies in hand
Yes.
as the explanation for this. I'm totally with you on this one. Like,
That's as much as I want to believe that I think okay. I think they experimented somehow with it, right? And it backfired on them, like gnomish engineering, something like that, and it blew up. It blew up the plane. They were experimenting now, and that's not counting the strange patents that people were on it, and important packaging that was on it too, and then cancer research that was on it too. Like, there's a bunch of weird things about it, like that most people don't know about it. Like, there was patents to cure cancer on it, something like that, or like the top researchers on cancer, like 8, 9, were going to some, you know, type of conference, and they were on the plane. Weird luggage, weird, like, dude, there's just so many weird things about it that everything just adds up to like this was something maybe potentially military, and they shot it down. They did something with it potentially.
something here, I don't, oh man, it's like,
I mean, what do you think? It's aliens, or you think it was? I think it's either aliens or military.
I think it's probably something mundane like military. I think it was probably, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, it feels like it's got like a lot of cover up elements to it in my mind, the way that I'm processing the information that I do process. Like I said, I'm not going 20 pages deep into someone's conspiracy theory about the details of the plane, right? And I'm not examining at that level, right? The military, this footage here is coming from drones of X, Y, and Z or whatever. I'm really only going on what I've read on Reddit and what I've saw on the Netflix documentary, and then a few like news articles here and there for people talking about it. And what it feels like to me is that it probably was some kind of military thing where it got shot down. I don't know the details why, but that feels like it would have been the case. And then a cover up afterwards would have ensued. People, and again, like, I'm with you where like we're not going to know until the plane is reconstructed and there's bodies, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And if it is a cover up of some kind, that's not on the table. So this is probably one of the more interesting stories I think that we've like gone over in the last 4 months or however long we've been doing it at this point, just because this is
It
so
remains
real.
unsolved. It's
Yeah, and it's
real, and it remains
unsolved.
unsolved. And it's
Yeah.
in our lifetime. And like, like as you said, like, you didn't even experience it till like after. I was like, I remember watching it in the news and seeing it happen. And then it's like, well, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. I was like, whoa, a plane just disappeared. Like, how does a plane just disappear? And this is modern time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is now.
I can't even imagine having family members on the plane. I can't like think about it, right? Like, that's what I was trying to ask you, is just like really think about it. You're someone you love dearly. You're going to pick them up at the airport and their plane disappeared. And the best any government can do is one piece of load-bearing wreckage.
But wasn't this like, how did, was it years later that they found it?
I don't know actually I don't know. I don't know when they found I think it was closer because at least in the documentary there were a couple community efforts I think that were organized looking at satellite photography, and I'm pretty sure it was in the order of
July of
months.
2015. The plane disappeared in 2011.
It disappeared in 2011 or 2014.
2011.
Anonymous says March 8, 2014.
No, excuse me. 2014. I was looking at the wrong picture.
Still, that's an insane amount of time. March to January of the following year. That's like what, like 8 months, something.
That's a long time. Now I
Yeah, it's
get
too
it that
long.
it flowed back on the beach, right? Like I think that's what happened. Like I don't even know how they found it.
Yeah. Yeah. None of it makes sense, and none of it is satisfying. And if you've lost someone in a situation like that, I can't even imagine what your life is like. So,
See, the thing too is they found more than 20 possible pieces of debris, so it just wasn't one piece. Like
this is after the fact. This is a
yeah,
couple months
after
later.
the fact, a couple months
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. But again, to your point, like I'm in the same mindset. I would not be satisfied unless there was like a whole wing, not 20 pieces of scrap. Like to me, a couple pieces that could be from other planes, that's not a satisfying answer.
See, the other thing too is we may not understand. Like if they're combing a whole area
Yeah.
and they're looking for it, they could be miles, hundreds of miles. And I think that's the other thing that a lot of us don't understand, that the debris it sank, could have sank. Some of it may have floated, and that's why we may never find anything, and we may never know. I do not think will know. It could be lots of things. Like it actually something malfunctioned from the plane, because like Boeing's are not free of issues. Like there, I don't know if you saw that documentary about like that the latest one that they kind of grounded because they were like crashing.
No.
There's a documentary on Netflix about a specific
Boeing's crashing.
a specific Boeing that had planes, and they got all of them got like grounded, like all of them, their whole line, because there was some type of issue. Like so, they're not free of issues. So
I hate
it
planes so much, flying on planes.
it could be that this was one of those planes that just had an issue, and I don't really know like how the maintenance is behind them, and these things fly thousands of miles in a day,
Yeah.
millions in a year.
All right, well, let's hop into
All right.
paranormal. How's that sound? All right.
Yeah, let's we digress.
Paranormal from the R Ghost subreddit with 1.2k upvotes. Most people liking this, 301 comments. My trail camera caught a figure moving. So you have to squint to see this, first off. So let's all take a moment to squint at the trail cam footage. These are the best. So, well, okay. Why don't you start off before I get angry?
Did you see anything? I couldn't see anything.
Yeah, I have seen something. Yeah. Here.
So the first time that I watched it, I didn't see anything. Like I was like, I didn't even know where to look. Because it's so pixelated in my opinion, right? Like that could be.
So here it is right here. Right in the center here. So what we're looking at is here, and then it's going to go there, and then it's going to go there. It goes all the way across. It looks like it's a thing walking in the background. Let's see if we
Someone
can
says like
zoom
if you move it quickly, like you could see the person. Like if you move it quick.
Yeah. So
And if
it's a
you
trail
increase
cam.
it to 480p, see that's my problem. Like we live in the age of like 8K these days, and this thing is recorded in 480p. Now I understand the trail cam because it wants to record as much as possible, that it's not going to record full on 1080p, 60 frames per
Yeah.
second. It'll die quickly.
So here, if you just track with my mouse, you should be able to see it. So here's the deal. I think people in the comments basically solved this one. It's a trail cam. It's not high quality. It's got an IR camera and it gets triggered. So basically what they're saying is, or the reasonable take is that like a rabbit triggered it to capture, and then in the background there's a person in the background who is literally walking. It's just getting picked up oddly.
Okay,
So
so that's what I didn't understand. Is it behind the camera that it's picking up and it's like that's reflecting, or there's someone really far behind picking up? Because that doesn't make sense to me either.
very far behind, and the IR is what's bouncing off and getting picked up. So that's why it comes out kind of ghostly. And I've seen other posts that are similar to this where it's like a IR camera, and I even have an IR camera on my front porch, and it's picked up some ghostly like
Really?
similar figures, yeah, like across the street. But these are camera artifacts. That's what it is. This ain't no ghost.
I don't think it just I mean, it could be dust too.
Sure, camera artifacts off of you know.
It's just not clear enough for me. Like
Yeah.
it's not. It does like creepy vibes. It's like 4 out of 10 because it's the middle of nowhere. It's
Mhm.
dark and that weird thing walking. I don't, you just it's artifacts. Like that's just
There's nothing going on here. But here's the interesting story from the Ghosts subreddit. I don't know if you saw this or not, but it has been largely unmoderated for the duration of the time that we've been doing the podcast. I did not
really.
know that that was the case. Yes. And so
Oh, so that's why
someone,
everybody's posting
it's all shit
lots.
tier. That's why. So like here's the thing. Someone who's interested in this stuff actually reached out, was able to grab hold of a mod, is looking to kind of revamp the subreddit. And so there's probably going to be in the next like month or so some more interest around moderation and around setting a standard, because they do have standards that are set in the subreddit, no mods enforcing it. And it makes sense based off of the quality of the content that we've seen. Most of it is shit tier. It's fake, it's inauthentic.
Like the last post from last week, that was just
Yep.
someone could have been like, this doesn't even fall under that. You just had creepy music and yeah, they could have got it deleted right away.
Yeah, and honestly, dude, if you add creepy music to anything, it just automatically, like we've already seen, it just people gets their attention crazy.
Yeah, like if this had creepy music, right? It's like a 3 out of 10 creep, right? But you add creepy music and you're just like, ooh, it'll
Yeah.
instantly buff it up to like, you're enchanting it.
Yeah, like here's the replay.
7 out of 10 creepy.
In the dark, a figure walks mysteriously. Just add some music to that, and all of a sudden you got 100.
It'll be that
right?
ooh,
Yeah,
ooh,
exactly.
song.
So
Creepy
hopefully we see
vibes.
some turnaround in the Ghost subreddit.
Okay,
A lot
okay.
of lot of people are really concerned that, and I've noticed this with a lot of the the subreddits that we're pulling from.
It's a Wild Wild West then.
Well, it is the wild wild west, but the question is what happens when you put a moderator in place, because then the volume, like there's a certain amount of
Decreases.
engagement that you need to have in a subreddit for it to be relevant. You know what I mean? Like if you only have like one post in the Ghost subreddit every year.
Maybe that's why it explains why there's a UFO, UFO-A, UFOs,
Mhm.
because maybe none of those have moderators either. Like no one's really, like babysitting them, right? And that's why there's so many like weird Reddits. Like why is there like 3 or 4 UFO subreddits?
Yeah. So let's hope for some turnaround. But let's hop into this is my favorite one of the week, by the way. From our cryptids, very low, 825 upvotes, 82 comments. I found one. I've actually never seen this before, and I have to say, man, this shit is scary. The more I looked into this bird, just man,
Is it
this is like nightmare fuel.
is it like an aggressive animal? Like have you seen it? Like it attacks people.
Yes, it attacks people. The first thing that cropped up here, I got a video. Let me put it on.
It's a big animal. It's like a big bird.
Send an ambulance, please. Can you send an
What?
ambulance? I am bleeding to death. Yeah, exactly. These are apparently related to velociraptors. I don't know how
Oh
true that
my
is,
God.
but that's what people were saying, and that's what they claim in this video. And
It's considered one of the most dangerous birds on the planet.
yeah, yeah, I've never heard about this in my entire life,
I've
so I was
seen
excited.
videos of this thing, like how they're mean.
Dude, it looks like a fucking dinosaur. Look at this. Not the rodent, but this thing right here. Look at that thing.
How big are they? How big does this thing get?
They're tall. They're like not as tall as ostriches, but they're like human sized. They'll have an example of someone getting attacked. They've got like a riot shield. Like look how big it is. It's like,
Oh, that's a big boy.
oh yeah, they're big.
So it's like it's like almost a little bit smaller than an ostrich.
Yeah, it looks like an ostrich is what, like maybe like a head higher than us.
Yeah.
This is like maybe like a head lower. This is the riot shield footage. Check this out.
Oh no, I'm good.
Yeah, look at this thing, man.
Imagine being out in the wild and that comes at you, dude. Like, oh man.
And if you're in the wild, you do not have a riot shield with you, by the way.
No.
So yeah, that was by far the most entertaining post, just because
That
this
is
is
so
real.
crazy.
But look at this thing in this footage. This
Like
is
it
like
looks
a nightmare
mean, like
fuel.
it's ready to attack.
Well, it looks like it's CGI to me. It doesn't even look real. I had to like actually dig into this.
You like you didn't believe it, you thought it was AI generated.
Now I'm gonna put the sound it makes on too. It's horrific. Ugh.
But this is because of the whole Bigfoot, right? It's like the whole we found another one. I think that's what it was.
Oh, it's a parody.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
That's the whole point. Yeah, they will disembowel you with their velociraptor feet. Most dangerous bird in the world. So much fun to see this though. I just
Because they're
never
saying
wanna see
like
it in
this
life.
all the yelling and like the birds that it makes, like that's the noise. Like, you know, if we said like you could change the pitch lower, like that's what they're saying. It's like we found another one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that's basically what they've been. The subreddit's been at for the last couple weeks is just basically, hey, take a look at all of the real stuff that's out there that is absolutely fucking psychotic. You don't have to have a cryptid to be scared.
No way, bro.
Yeah.
It'll be like the one time I was out in the mountains and I came across a mountain lion, and my coworker that went hiking with me, she was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "It was a fucking mountain lion." And it just like, dude, it was the fastest thing I've ever seen move, like ever. It galloped like from one side of the road to the next side of the road in like 3 seconds. It just went boom, boom, and then it was up the mountain, boom, and then it was just like a tail like this, like, you know, to keep it balanced. And
Yeah.
then next thing we knew, it was like up on the hill, which was like 400 feet elevation gain, like fast. And then it started making noises, and she started panicking. And this is like maybe like the second time that I took her with me, and she was like, "What is that? What is it?" I was like, "It was a mountain lion." And I told her, I was like, "Whatever you do, don't run. Like, do not run." And yeah, like, and that's, you know, I think I was more scared of that than like Bigfoot, any stupid Bigfoot experience I've experienced out there.
Dude, have you seen the footage of the mountain lion? that
Yes,
is
dude.
stalking the guy for like
The one that's like,
quarter mile. Yeah. Oh man, that thing is.
that's a no for me.
Woo. That's crazy.
There's one with, I think it's like a grizzly too, where the guy's walking and it's just like following him. But that mountain lion, I think he was like, it's that one is wild. I think they said that he came up on the babies, and that's what
Oh,
pissed her off.
triggered it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what triggered it. Because if you see it, like if you go back, it's kittens, and that's where she freaks out. So what you see in the picture, it's kittens, and that's what triggered. So
Oh,
those
yeah,
are
yeah,
babies, and then she's coming out like full force, like I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, don't mess with her kids.
That's what put that hiker in such a dangerous position. Is just like, well,
The
That's like my
babies.
biggest fear, like running
Yeah.
into a mountain lion with its cubs or a bear with, with its kittens and a bear with its cubs. Like that's like my biggest fear. And it chased them like, oh man. They're such beautiful animals, but they'll definitely
Yeah.
kill you.
No, look at the intensity. It is look at this.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Woo!
mm-mm.
You're out for your daily walk and you see this.
Yeah, that's a no for me. Like I would just my soul would leave me.
It's a wild world, man.
Oh man.
Yeah, I like how he's like filming this and he's like talking to himself. Where's my gun? Where's my gun? You know, he's like probably realizing that, oh my God. Even
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
that's
looking at it, I get scared. I'm just like, holy shit. He's calling it a kitty cat, dude.
you can't even stop to pick up rocks because like how fast it's galloping towards them, like when it does do that thing. Like I don't even know what I would do. Like if it kept like
I would kick the sand in its face. That's one
well, they
thing that
say
you
that you
can
try to
do.
make yourself big, right? Like I usually go with like walking sticks. So I would have like, yeah. Like at this point I would have been taking off my belt, wrapping my knife around that, and I'm gonna use that as a spear. Like to try to keep it away from me. Like that's what I think I would do. I don't even know if that's the right thing to do, but that's what I think I'm gonna try to do.
I would be taking off my belt, but it would be to change my pants.
Yeah, probably big facts. Like anything in my backpack, I'm throwing at it. Like that's what, and whatever I can reach, even if it's my water bottle, like that, it's getting tossed at it.
So, what's scarier to you? This situation, because you made a comment earlier, right? Or you see like Bigfoot.
This is more frightening because this
Yeah.
this kills people, bro. Like there's
Yeah.
people die from mountain lion attacks. I don't know how many a year.
That's what I'm saying. Is yeah, Mothman, sure, I'd be a little bit like scared. But holy shit, if I saw this, it's more likely that you'll see this, number one, right? Especially SoCal.
As of 2022, there have been 126 attacks and 27 fatalities.
Wow, 27, 2006?
2022.
2022?
Yeah. 120. What did I say?
27 people died.
126 attacks and 27 of them died.
Man, could you imagine fucking dying to this? Oh, that would be terrible. Absolutely terrible. Especially if you'd recorded the entire thing. Oh my God. And it finally disappears.
Yeah, but that's a
So,
long walk that I'm just like, yeah, that's enough for me.
yeah, it's like a quarter of a mile of pure fear. So, well, glad he didn't die on that one. But I think that wraps it up for our top paranormal news of the week.
Absolutely.
So, you know, what'd you think? Was there anything interesting this week that stood out to you?
The one that we just covered, the last one.
The last one?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
telling you like the cryptoid, it's like there's much scarier things than Bigfoot out here or whatnot, or what we think is scary. I mean, that one was hilarious, the UFO thing, but that one is just someone put it out there saying like, hey, there's some things out here that could actually kill you.
Yeah, this is by far my favorite from the week just because
Oh
it's
man.
so cool.
But the UFO one was like funny, dude. I laughed so much after that comment. I was like, God, the internet's funny, dude. It's undefeated.
Yeah, I'm really surprised it ended up being a meme instead of the Joe Rogan interview just because
Oh
it's so
man.
big. But
But
maybe
that's the
next week.
problem. That's the problem with these subreddits. It's like if anybody upvotes it, like it'll get popular.
Yeah. Y'all set to do a
Yeah,
Tales
definitely.
Redacted? All right, let's get
That's
into
funny.
it.
It's gonna what we're covering. It's gonna be something related.
Nice. Exciting.
Just remember, I didn't kill my server. I just didn't disappear randomly.
Oh, it's gonna be that intense this week.
It's gonna be another CIA military file.
Okay, these are great.
Which
I love these.
it's not as like creepy as I'm putting it out to be, but the fact that I found a whole nother website that I found an article on that, I don't even know how I found it, like how I even got to this point. So, like the CIA website, there's a military website that also puts out um, sensitive information for the Freedom of Information Act. They also put out their files, right? And it's the military site that I sent you a couple days ago. I don't know if you saw that. And I was like, what in the world is this? And I started like deep diving and finding things. And obviously, I got curious and I started off with UFOs. And this is the first thing that I found on there. So for context, I'm going to explain how this became part of the CIA/military file, because it's a file. You can find it on the CIA website and also the military website. It's it got disclosed, obviously, and Freedom of Information Act, they put it out there. I don't know exactly what year it got put out, but it's from 1981. So on July 24th, 1981, in China, they had what I'm going to say is their super big sighting, like our Phoenix Lights, where it was seen by millions in 13 provinces of China. It flew over the whole pretty much country, and it was this oscillating thing. They all saw it. It became national media thing for them in China, and millions of people saw this, right? So later that day, apparently, they even said that it got even seen in San Diego. Now, I couldn't find any information about this. That in 1981, July 24th, a giant UFO was seen over China, over 13 provinces. So this is where it starts getting really crazy, and this is where this disclosure comes from. This gentleman by the name of Zhang Suxing, he predicted that this would happen in June. Now, the way he predicted it is he was saying he's some type of scientist, and he's like, I guess, what is it, an astrophysicist?
Mhm.
And he described how the meteors were falling from the sky from the east to west, north to south, and in different directions. He could then say that he could predict UFOs, and he predicted it. He put it out there, and he was right. He said sometime in June, that in July there would be a giant UFO, and he even predicted how it would travel. So then it became a super national media thing. So what
Wait.
happened?
He's doing his predictions from meteorites in the meteors in the sky. Okay.
The
got it.
article explains it a lot better than I can, that got disclosed from the Chinese government. So this guy then pretty much did an article and a research saying that he's not correct, that he's incorrect. And this is actually the Chinese media. And then it got translated, and then it got shared to, I guess, our government. And then the CIA then released this information, and they were trying to disprove him, saying that, no, it's not accurate. The way he's saying that the meteors are falling or the comets are coming are not going to predict UFOs. And he gave a whole breakdown, and it explains it in this article. And it is part of the military/CIA, and he is like an astronomer, and he was like someone in a position, and they're trying to discredit him. It explains that so he says that we shall see a UFO in late July. On July 24th, the flying disc did come, and the whole nation saw it. It was millions. Now, they're saying that his theories and his predictions were all wrong, and that it's not based on any science. And it was the other gentleman that tried to disprove him by the name of, what is his name? Liu Yan, and he wrote this pretty much not intense article, but he wrote this whole like thing about it, and you could find this on the CIA government website. I don't know how I found this military website to begin with. I think I was just looking for like giant UFO encounters, and it came up, and that's how I found it. And it's one of those weird things that's just like, why is the CIA disclosing Chinese information about a UFO event that happened in 1981 in July at the end of the month where someone predicted it? And it's pretty much they're trying to disprove him that he's got no thesis behind his prediction. And it's an interesting article. I'll link it to you. And it was a giant UFO event. It explains a lot. There's a lot to cover in it. But yeah, dude, millions of people saw this thing. It is like the biggest UFO event. There's people describing it. It was this giant oscillating thing that kind of resembled like Saturn rings. And it floated and it just flew across like 13 provinces. For those of you that don't know, provinces are like states, and multiple people saw it. And now it's not in the age of the digital age because it's 1981. So there is no footage. There's no cameras. There's no photography of it, but they all reported that millions of people saw it. Kind of like the Phoenix Light. There's only a couple videos here and there. So it's like I think of it as their Phoenix Lights, where a whole millions of people saw it. And it's kind of creepy that it would get leaked on the CIA website and that I found it that way. I really need to stop going to that website.
So wait, there was no mention of this anywhere other than the CIA website?
So when I was just typing in UFO incident July, 27, 1981, it kept popping up on the CIA website and the military website.
Oh, no kidding. So it's
Yeah.
it's really scoped down. It's searchable by
It's
those
searchable
sites.
if you look up UFO of July 24th, 1981. And it's known as what's it called? A day. I can't see the complete article website, but there's a website on the UPI. The official Chinese news agency said today an unidentified object flew over, 13 provinces. And they're saying that the Chinese government is also saying that the same object, according to them, also flew over San Diego. And it flew over in Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, Ningzhai, Qinghai, Gansu, Shanxi, Shishun, Henan, Hebei, Yunnan, Guizhou, and Anu provinces. And they were saying that about 13 provinces total. It was seen around 10:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. And it was in periods of 10 minutes before it vanished. And they thought of it as an unusual star, is what they all thought it was.
An unusual star. I like that a lot.
And that it had a tail, and something was in circulating in the oscillating thing in the center. And it had like 5 spirals, and that's why they said that some people said that it looked like Saturn, the rings of Saturn. Now they say that that it coiled at the end, I guess when it took off, like similar to a dragon. But it's an interesting article, man. I've never even heard anything about this, and I found it on the military website, gov website, whatever the link that I gave you. And I think I was trying to find like mind reading stuff is why I was like researching this. I was like, let me see what UFO pops up on this military website, and that's what popped up for me.
So just to reiterate, the key elements here, right, are going to be that this was disclosed to the American public at the request of a civilian.
Correct.
Okay, so that's a key element. That the CIA had records of this specific information regarding this specific event.
Correct.
Where did those details come from? How did the CIA get them?
I guess they disclosed it to the CIA, the Chinese government.
The Chinese government.
Yes. I guess
Why?
they might have, who knows? Then that's what makes this even stranger. Like, why would they even disclose this information? Like, it makes you think, like, how much in cahoots are we with each other and disclosing UFO, UAP information? Like this is from 1981, and they were saying like, hey, we had this event. Like please tell us more about it, and maybe this was a report.
Yeah. It's interesting because hold on one second. Let me pull something up real quickly, and then I'll comment. David Grush, right? The David Grush interview. He actually does talk a little bit about cross-government coordination through history. And one of the things that he talks about is a flying saucer that looked apparently like the typical flying saucer, the one that you would see, with the dome and all that kind of stuff. And it fell in, I think it was Italy around the 40s, like in that time period. I think is about what he was talking about. If not, then I'll edit this out. Actually, I'm probably going to edit all my talking out anyhow. So this is just kind of like some conversation piece. But basically, they didn't know what the hell was going on, so they reached out to Germany, and then Germany came down and examined this craft, is what he was saying, and that a whole bunch of the sort of international interactions happened until we formed like the CIA, I guess. Because there was like another organization before that was not the CIA, that was just kind of like a loose information gathering organization that became the CIA. And so the governments have been coordinating with one another around strange things. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, you don't have any experience with it. You don't know if it's a threat. You're trying to figure out if it's, somebody else.
Well, yeah, it's like, is this a potential threat? Is this you? And if it isn't you, like, we want to know more information because you don't know what it is, and you identified it as a unidentified flying object or unidentified anonymous, whatever the hell it stands for these days.
Yeah.
Phenomenon.
So very strange series of events, definitely. At least it's interesting how we got this information. I mean,
that's what makes it really, like, I don't know, creepy maybe at the same time. It's just like, why would they disclose this information to begin with? Like, wouldn't you try to keep this hush hush? It's like, how much information, let's say about the Phoenix Lights, did we disclose to China, and they released information, or they have that type of information, as you were saying, that they're in cahoots and they share information back and forth. It's like that one weird wire that got leaked from Hillary Clinton. Like, I guess it was like some type of Russian personnel was trying to figure out, like, hey, what's going on in Antarctica with the whole UFO situation. I don't know if you remember anything about that.
No.
It was something about some wire UFO. They were asking questions like, what are you doing with the whole Antarctica thing? And I don't know. It could have been like cold talk, but who even knows?
So, I mean, what do you think about this? Do you think that the event occurred? Do you think, because here's an alternative perspective, the Chinese has decided to fuck with us by giving us bad information?
It could have been. It could have been. I mean, it's like, it was in their media.
Oh, it was in their media?
It was in their media. It was in their media. They had.
So they reported on it, but there's no photographs of it.
There's no photographs of it because obviously 1981. There's not going to be any. At the time, maybe not everybody. I don't know what communist China is like in the 80s.
Didn't have Polaroid. Come on.
Maybe not.
What the hell?
But millions of people saw it, and I guess that's why they came out. And the thing is, they didn't even comment on it either. The Chinese government never commented on it. They didn't comment on it until like months later, apparently. Like, I think like 6 months later, they didn't talk about it. It's like they just stayed hush and didn't say anything, and that's what makes it. And then to have this report given to the CIA, it just reads weird, or the United States government. It's just, you could be right. They could be fucking with us and giving us, misinformation. Or maybe this guy was really onto something about predicting UFOs, and then they're trying to discredit him because he's got a whole breakdown in that article I just linked in the podcast. And it's too much information to cover here. It's like way too much, too long, didn't read. Like, I couldn't cover like his east, west, south, first, second, third. Like, he's got this whole criteria depending on like the meteors and how they run, and they come from I don't even know Caspian. Where the hell? It comes from a specific areas. What they it like I said, there's a lot of information in this article I just sent you. And it's not even an article. This disclosures that I sent you.
Can you describe what the experience of the onlooker of the event would have experienced?
A giant star-looking shape that looked like Saturn, and it was circulating in the middle, and it was floating. And then what happened is about 10 minutes later, it would trail off, and then a trail would follow it as it would go up, or it would just vanish. That's pretty much what most people, I think, saw or reported. The couple articles I did find, they kind of describe that like a dragon is what one of them, culturally is. Dragons are big in their cultures. I could also think that makes you wonder too, like culturally, if they're such big on dragons, what if that's what they were really looking at? UFOs. Yep.
Okay, so this guy predicted that a large event UFO would show up.
Yes.
And that's
And
really
he's-
the thread in all of this, right? Is that
Yes, they're
this
trying
guy-
to discredit him because the article says that he's got no.
our government is trying to discredit him.
Their Chinese government is trying to.
Chinese
discredit
government
him.
is trying to discredit him. Okay.
They discredited him and said like, no, his theories are all wrong. That there's no possible way.
Was he able to predict another UFO?
That I'm aware of, I could not find anything else.
Okay.
I couldn't even find anything after this. Like if he did other things, like there was.
Did they
there wasn't-
unalive him? Did they silence him,
I
Chris?
don't know. Potentially. I don't
Okay.
know.
So the big 20,000 foot view is a scientist in China has basically a claim that he can predict a large scale UFO activity based off of patterns in the sky, complicated patterns in the sky. He predicts with some accuracy an event. The event
He said it.
happens.
At the end of July, in June, and it happened.
Okay, so he predicts with accuracy that this thing has happened. Million people saw this over 13 provinces in China. And that whole event occurred, and then the Chinese government comes up to the US government and says, "Hey, this stuff happened." Meanwhile, they're trying to discredit this scientist. And then years later, an individual using the Freedom of Information Act was able to get this specific piece of information freed up.
Yep.
Fucking bonkers, dude.
Right? It's like I could not make this up. This is like movie status. Like you could make a really good either movie or TV show about this. Because you said it beautifully. Like you reviewed it beautifully. It's exactly what you just said. Guy predicts UFO. UFO shows up. Government has nothing to say. Government tries to cover up. Someone figures out, hey man, this UFO incident from 81, I wonder if our government knows anything about it. Let me see if I can get information. Our government gives the information. Story happened. Try to discredit the scientists, which is nuts. Who knows what happened to the scientists, because couldn't find anything on it.
What a trip. Man, what do we even do with these documents?
I don't know. I don't. Half the time when I find the documents, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, I looked through a
And-
couple just at face value, and I'm like, okay, there's like the one that I linked to you. I don't know if you remember the one that I linked to you, but there's like mathematical diagrams that someone put in there, and I'm just sitting there laughing my ass off because I'm like, what background does this person have that they're filling out this form that looks like it belongs in like a fucking school setting? You know, like it's
At Harvard. That's
yeah, it's just so weird to think that these things are locked behind a government wall. That it's okay. Here's the weird part. This is the part that gets me. An individual spent hours, probably 30 hours at least, writing out that paper that I linked to you.
Yes.
Assuming in good faith that it's real and that they, weren't just like gibberish. And I looked over some of this stuff and it looked like it was like reasonably consistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a report that was meant to be for another human being to read. So it's like a government, document that got filed, but like it's not trivial the amount of work that went in there. That gets filed in a cabinet somewhere, and then
In an X
20
file.
years later, yeah, and like in an X file, and then 20 years later,
Like,
someone
like
frees
literally
it
an
up.
actual X file. Like that's what this is.
Yeah, so it's so insane to me that it's real. Not the content. I can't evaluate the content, but the process is real. It's so insane.
Yeah, it's like, okay, let's pull up an X file, look at it, release it, and then 20 years, 30 years from now, when it falls under that criteria, we could release it. If someone knows that something exists like that. It's like we would have to actively look at information right now, document it, and then ask for it 20, 30 years from now. Hey, can I get Freedom of Information Act on the Alaskan UFO that was shot down like 30 years from now? Like, I want to know that information. And that's going to happen. It's going to happen. Someone's going to release it and we're going to read the article. Like, God damn, I'm going to be 70, 75 when it happens and read the article and be like, I knew it.
Well, more likely is that because there's so many files that are released this way that no one reads it except for maybe the person that requested it.
But why? But the other thing is, like, why did the person request it?
Well, that's what I want to know too, because like I'm realizing that with the Freedom of Information Act, you have to target specific things. You can't just.
Well, remember that article that I linked to that someone, it was like everything. One person requested like a gargantuous amount of information, and half of them had values to them. Maybe even more than half of them. I think some of them were like JFK stuff and UFO stuff, Washington UFO. Like, it was a bunch of weird things.
Yeah, so fucking weird, dude.
I thought you would find that interesting. Like, after it was like the first thing that I picked. I found this maybe like on Monday, because I was like, I'm gonna start early and I'm gonna pick like 3 or 4 stories and see which one I like best, right? And I try to do the research as much as possible. And when I found this one, I was like, I'm picking this one. There's too much information and the bunch of news articles, and I was like, yeah, this one's really weird. Like, why is it on the CIA/military website?
Yeah,
Who
dude.
would request it and why they request it?
And the thing is, like, here's the thing that I'm thinking about as I'm listening to it, right? Is what is the story here? Because the story that I have in my mind that I think is really interesting is the one we were just talking about right now, which is, there's a person behind the scenes that worked for the government that filled out, spent 30 hours on like whatever form and research that they needed for this particular thing about UFOs or aliens or whatever. They got paid to do this. They got government time to do this. They got approved to do it. It got sealed somewhere. So it got recorded and sealed. Presumably a council of people reviewed it. And when I say council, I'm talking like 2 or 3 people probably, maybe like their superior. So like a chain of people reviewed the work that was done in this particular area on like a UFO study of some kind. It gets sealed, and then 20 years later, someone requests that it be, sent out to the public, and then we get to see the details on it. That is a crazy fucking story. Like, just every layer of it, the fact that the government has all of these programs around mind control, abnormal programs. We don't have to go into details, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The government is researching ghosts. Your government money, the tax money that you have, is going to find Casper.
You're
right?
not wrong. Like, they do that. And then you could even request Freedom of Information Act, and it'll take them 20 working days to give it to you. Like, if you want to find out like what happened, in whatever event. It's like, what was that UFO Umamawawa? In like 20, 30 years, we could try to request it and see like what it really was.
Yeah, that whole process is more interesting to me than probably most of the research that's locked behind the government wall, just in general, because it's like, it's the story of where our tax dollars go. It's the story of what people believe and bring into the government. It's the story, it's the question of, should your government be investigating Casper the Friendly Ghost? Should, like, I'm being honest on this one, right? Like, I'm trying to be like not a dick about it, but like, especially looking into some of the Bigelow stuff. I don't know if you've seen like the Skinwalker Ranch and the Bigelow stuff. Like, Grush talks about it a little bit, but there was all this funding that went into Skinwalker Ranch, and like the Corbin guy, right? Like he's been involved in a lot of these sort of movements that have gotten a lot of money funneled into essentially something that I would assume not everybody in America, not the majority of people, probably don't want their money being spent on ghost hunting or
So,
skinwalker hunting.
so I looked up how many people work on these requests. If you had to guess how many in a year, and this is fiscal year 2013 that they had
50
this many.
people, maybe 50.
No, it's a lot more than that.
What?
It's a total 501 personnel dedicated to the processing and responding to these requests.
Wow. How
It,
much money do they make?
who knows? The personnel consists of 422 full-time FOIA staff, and then it's then complemented by 80 additional individuals. And this is like, if you put information, this is how many people are working on it.
Okay, so let's say they make like 100K like a year.
Oh my dear Lord. I just looked up on justice.gov. There are, what is it? On the Executive Office of Immigration Review, there's 225,000 requests. For the Federal Bureau of Prisons, there's 15,000. FBI requests, 12,000. The other EOIR, 25, 15. So I don't know how many departments there are. I guess I'm gonna have to go look at all these other departments to see what the hell they are.
Well, let's just do the 500 head count. That's $50 million a year that's going into processing this information to get it out to the public.
Dude,
Just for
sometimes finding
context.
out things like this worry me.
Which
I'm going
part?
down a rabbit hole that most people don't know. Like, don't, it's like, because of what we're doing in our podcast, it's just like I'm actively like, I'm putting myself out there. It worries me
Yeah.
a little bit sometimes.
Oh, you mean from people? Don't worry, no one's watching this shit.
That's
We're
what I'm
watching
saying.
it. We watch it week to week to see if we're doing a little bit better. No one's watching this shit. This is just us, man.
But I'm saying, it's just like, what type of people are doing these requests?
Yeah, I'm really curious about that because you have to have some kind of specialized knowledge in order to get that information in the first place. It's essentially you're saying, hey, government, I would like to know about this event that happened that you know about, that I've heard people talk about has happened. You know what I mean? Like you can't just go and say like, hey, government, tell me everything you know about ghosts, because they're not going to
UFO,
process
give me
that.
everything. Yeah, they're not going to
Yeah.
be like, yeah, I guess you have to be specific.
Yeah,
Like
you
that
have-
report, remember the one that I sent you? Whoever it was very specific about everything.
yeah.
All information
absolutely.
regarding MK Ultra, all information regarding JFK, all information regarding the 1981 UFO event of China, all information regarding the Phoenix Lights event, like that. Like, it's got to be that specific.
And we're
Because they're
talking
saying
we're
that-
talking head counts, right? So, but that's
Yes.
not the total cost, because
No.
that information needs to get processed. It needs to get stored on servers. It needs to be secured on servers, even though it's available to the public. You can't have people going in and altering the shit. So there's all the IT infrastructure that's involved, all the headcount associated with IT infrastructure and managing that. This is expensive documentation.
Wait, then it says, like, when a department component receives a request, it ordinarily will send a letter to the requester acknowledging the request and assigning it a tracking number. If the component requires additional information from the requester so the process can begin, it will then contact the requester directly.
We should request some information from the Freedom of Information Act. You don't want to do that? That would be
I don't
great
know.
to do. That would be
like
so
that,
much
they're like-
fun.
I'll be like, hey, we're doing this for our podcast. We want to know some information on, like, the maybe no, because there's not going to be enough things like let's say 3G, 2G, and what type of altering effects does it have on us? It's not long enough.
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a government study on that, but I think more and more I'm interested in this whole process because this is something that is available to every
There is a
American
guide.
on how to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep it in mind. Definitely post it to me, and I'll take a look at it. And when we get into a space where we have an opportunity to do this, I have no trouble trying to interact with the government to get some information. I think it'll be an interesting process. We can even document it. We could probably even do a video on it if I'm being honest.
Yeah, be like, hey, this is what we requested as a YouTube video, and be like, this is what we requested from the government, and this is every loop and jump that they made us,
Yeah.
do. Because it could be that.
I genuinely think people on YouTube, there would be an audience to estimate the cost of getting a piece of information requested, freed up, and in the public space. Wouldn't you find that interesting? Like, because you're paying taxes too, right? Like I'm paying.
Yeah,
taxes.
of course.
Yeah, I'm paying.
It's funny.
Up
It
my fucking
even,
ass.
yeah, definitely. It even tells you like, hey, this is the first way you want to try to do it. Access to certain records without FOIA requests. The DOJ website located on justice.gov should be the first starting point for anyone interested in the DOJ.
Yeah, let's
And
keep
and
this in
it's
mind and try it for sure. And again, I'm not trying to make fun, and I'm not trying to say that this is a bad service or that it's over costly for what it is, but I do think it's something that people should know is available to them and how much it costs. What does it cost to get you a single freedom of information request, like freed up for the public? That's an interesting question to me. How much did you pay in taxes to, and also like, are there like statistics on how many are freed per year?
no idea.
Yeah, that would be another interesting
I
topic
think
for
on the
you.
website of the Department of Justice and the CIA tells you how many get released that year. Like if you go to the CIA website and you go to it, it'll say like year and it tells you how many articles were released that year. And it's not a lot. I'm gonna say under 20, 25.
So there's like thousands of people that are employed because you said there's other departments that are involved, right?
Yes. Because it covers like also the Bureau of Prison, immigration. It covers a bunch of things.
So why isn't
Because
the
even
information just out in the open? Why do you need to have all that staff?
that's another question for another day.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
if we did a video like this and let's say it comes back and it costs $10,000 to get one thing freed up. I think people will find that interesting. I think they'll flip their lid.
You have to do it in writing.
Ooh, I don't know how to write anymore. I can only type. But then the other question is, if we took the head count and just estimated out the
Yeah, it does say that you can now digitally like submit it electronically via the web form, email.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting video.
Yeah, you have to request it as a Freedom of Information Act request in your email. Or at the front of your envelope if you're going to send it in as a request letter. Dude, this is insane. Like I send it to the podcast. Like I had no idea this is how complicated. I thought it was just easy to put it in, type it in, and be like, "Hey, this is what I want."
No, I think it's fantastic that this exists. Let me just be clear. I do think that potentially you could just free up all that staff and just have the documents public, and then maybe have like 100 people who help you search through the documents, and it would be organized a little bit better. I don't know because I don't know the structure, but I'm just looking at like thinking off the top of my head about numbers, right? About like staffing and all that kind of stuff. And also it feels bad to me that there's all of this government walled information that you just request it and then you get it. Just
No,
make
it's
that
not.
shit public.
They do not make it easy because it says if you're going to request it, it needs to be notarized, or you have to declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct, executed on this date. This is the guide. It's telling you to do it this way, and you have to follow that format.
Dude, we gotta try this. I'll go get something notarized. Like, no problem. Like, we gotta we need to find something. So first of all, the video can be about the process. I'm just, thinking, right? But we
Yeah,
do
like
need to find a specific event that we know that the government will have information about that is not public that we can, pull on. That's the hard part too, right? Is it's like you're not supposed to know about this thing, so how can you even ask for it?
yeah, it says description of the record sought. In making your request, you should be specific as possible when describing the records you are seeking. Like it's not necessary to provide the name of the title requested record, but specific about like records, type of records that you seek.
This will be a fun project for next year. 100%.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, this will be a fun little video to try to put together. I'm really dying to know just like how much staff is involved here, and like really like why do we have to even go through the Freedom of Information Act to get the information? That's the real question I have, I think, in my head. It's not really the numbers. It's if you can request it, it just feels like, why are you making us jump through hoops to get this information? I know why. I know why. It's because they don't want to have a spotlight on a study about Casper the Friendly Ghost, or they don't want to unearth that they were
Okay, so
giving syphilis to people, right? Things like that.
well, that's the thing. Like let's say they request like, hey, can you list all events where the United States government was doing, research or experiments on the public. What says here that says that no initial fee required to submit FOIA requests. In fact, the majority of requests made to the Department of Justice, no fees are ever charged. The FOA does provide a charging for certain types of fees in some instances. What if that's how they block people? It's like, well, you have to pay $10,000 to get this information. And what David Pollack used to say that he used to ask for that via the FOIA, and he says, yeah, you got to pay this amount of money.
I mean, I think it'll still be interesting to go through the process and see where we get blocked up. The hardest part is going to be to figure out like what we're asking for, right? I think that's something we need to. That's something that can come out of research that you're doing, because you're already looking in these documents. So if you see something that might have like a tangent, something that hasn't been freed up, but maybe one of these documents alludes to something else that's just not publicly available yet, that would be the easiest thing I can think of in my head, is that you're looking at like a UFO document, and the UFO document references a ghost document, right? And you check and you're like, oh, it's not available. That would be something that we could easily pull from and just go through the process to see what it looks like. There's other things that we could do to figure out like how to. I don't know.
Request,
Are you interested in this? Do you think it would be fun
absolutely.
to do? All right, yeah. Let's
do
it then. Yeah, let's start thinking about it off and on during the week, and we can either talk about it live and brainstorm at the end of the podcast just to figure out, or we can do it async in the channel or whatever.
It's wild, actually. Like, it's just, my mind is blown.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I want to know what's behind the government sheath, right? Because here's the thing, and this again comes from the Gresh podcast, where he's basically asking for clearance, right? And the government tells him whether or not he can say specific things. No one's affirming that like telepathy exists because the government studied telepathy. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. What is the point of hiding the fact that you were studying telepathy? Well, I think it comes down to that's our tax dollars. Like, do you want your tax dollars going to telepathy research?
Probably not.
I don't want ghosts like being investigated. Now, shit in the sky, I absolutely want you to look at that. I don't like if I look outside and there's like a plane dropping bombs because we're not looking at the sky, and it's like that's a very real scenario. China could put a balloon that's poisoning people. Like, who knows what is out there? Like, there's very real implications with like
Sky and the
stuff.
stuff bad. That's what.
Yeah.
But everything else, go stop researching ghosts. Sky and the bad. Sky and stuff is bad.
Yeah, like the time travel stuff is fun when it's sci-fi. When it's the fucking CIA dropping acid and sitting in a room listening to music, like I don't want my tax dollars. I don't want
Listen to
anyone's
Led
tax dollars going
Zeppelin.
to that.
I don't want them to listen to Led Zeppelin and get high. Is what you're telling me.
Nah, dude, do it in your own time. Take it to work. Take it as a hobby after work. We've started a podcast to talk about this stuff. They can start a research firm after hours to drop acid and listen to.
You're
Pink
not
Floyd.
wrong.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is it's like I feel like with a lot of these, if we started to dig into the actual details, I think what we would find is a lot of corruption. That's my suspicion, is that
Yeah.
the wall is there because, you know, Ted, who believes in ghosts, was able to trick his boss into wasting everybody's time with something that was never. Here's when I, to be clear, because I don't want to piss anyone off that like believes in ghosts or believes in any of the paranormal or any of that. I'm not saying that shit doesn't exist. I'm not saying that you're wasting your time with it. But a fucking government study, I don't trust that the person who's creating the study using our money was ever going to have a positive or negative result out of the test. They're just wasting time. They're just wasting.
It's always going to be
people's
about
money.
wasting time and money. That's what it's always going to be about.
Yeah. So that's my take on it. And
Man, we
I
went
don't
on
know.
a rant after my stupid story, bro.
no, I mean, I love this stuff. I have to say this is really, this is the heart of the X-Files right here. You know, the hidden documents, the studies that are happening behind the scenes. It's so absurd, but it is so true. What do we do with it though? Because here's the other thing.
Knows?
Like, here's the interesting story. Like, if we take away the fucking government involvement and all that bullshit from the Tales Were Redacted tonight, is it's really cool to hear a story about like, hey, there was a man that was trying to predict UFOs or came up with a method to predict UFOs, and then it actually happened, and then there was chaos or whatever. That's an interesting story for sure. Are there like 100,000 of those stories behind the government wall?
Well,
Is
we'll
that the
never know.
only one? Like, yeah, exactly. Like
Unless
we will
you know
know because you're
specific
looking.
details. Yeah, unless you're looking.
Yeah, I mean,
Or you
you're
find
you're
it by
actively looking,
accident.
right?
Or
So
half of the stuff I'm finding by accident.
yeah, well, that's
By
the thing.
just
Is,
researching other things. I'm not even using ChatGPT anymore. I'm literally just typing it in and see what pops up.
yeah, and you've been tossing some of these articles, and I haven't spent a lot of time like just going through them or whatever. But here's another thought: is this one's a little more technical, but what we could do is there's these large language model. You can self-host ChatGPT for the simplified version, and the self-hosted version of it, you take a series of documents. You basically train the model, right? I mean, we could try to dump all of the publicly available data into an LLM and then start asking it questions and see what happens. That might be another fun topic,
Yeah.
fun video to do, right?
Like we
No.
asked AI to be like, hey, analyze all these and tell me what you think.
Yeah,
Is it
or
common?
yeah, there's other things we can do with the data too. Like you can extract proper names. I think I sent you. I figured out how to do that a little while ago with Python. Super easy to do, and so you can grab proper names from like locations, religions, names like full names, and just it sounds not impressive. I think to start with. But here's the thing, right? You put a counter on it, and then all of a sudden, Chad Smith starts showing up 400,000 times across all of the documents, and then you've got a piece of information. You've got something to go on, right?
Like who's Chad Smith?
Yeah, who is Chad Smith, and why is he
Chad
involved
Smith?
in 70% of the alien abduction studies, right? And then you're like, check out his LinkedIn, and then you see, okay, well, he's a ufologist, and you start to see like a story, right? So
Yeah.
it's something that I think a journalist would do manually, probably, but we could do it in an automated fashion. And I'm thinking about like what's coming up in the next 6 months, just in general with like life and like entertainment and stuff. And I definitely want to start streaming a little bit. I'm definitely going to be playing Season of Discovery for fun, trying to chop that up into some content with some people I'm playing with. But it would also be interesting to have like Tuesdays or Wednesdays or just a day out of the week where I'm streaming, just working the shit out. I think that might be interesting for people. I don't really know. Like, I do watch some streamers who do technical stuff and they don't have like a lot of people involved, but I'm starting to think about like ways we can. Well, I mean, we started talking about this before the podcast. Like, who is our audience, right?
Yeah.
So we need to answer that, I think, because that will inform a lot of the activities that we're interested in. Is our target audience Zoomers? Because if our target
Maybe.
audience is Zoomers, do they even know what the X-Files are? Or do they just know the music from the meme?
They may just know the music from the meme. They may not know. I mean, unless they have Netflix and we've always heard it and they're like curious. But you'd be
Yeah.
surprised how many of them do not know. Like, I'll sit there and talk. I work with a lot of Zoomers, and a lot of them will say, like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, I wasn't born
totally.
yet. I was like,
I know.
oh.
Yeah. And then on the podcasting space, the big people are like Mr. Ballin, Nexpo. They cover a whole sphere of people that already have established like fan bases. So I think maybe this next year is a good opportunity to think about what we want out of the podcast, and that's going to include who the audience is. I personally would love to have a community that's interested in these kinds of things. That's kind of, we don't have a Discord yet. We're going to turn the Behind the Curve Discord into something for us.
Mhm.
But I think maybe starting a fresh Discord's probably the way to go. It's just, here's the stuff that I would like to see. This is where I'm getting at, right? I would like to see who's engaged in the stuff that we're interested in, right? And that means
You want to see who our audience is, like what, like who objectively is really watching this, and what else do they watch?
And it doesn't even have to be like an audience. I just want people participating in things that I'm fucking interested in. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's kind of rare to find people that are interested in this space. And I'm interested in doing a little bit of digging and maybe some journalism, right? And video essays and things like that. And there's not a lot of people that are interested in that because it is a fucking shit ton of work, man. It's a lot of work. That little video I made for the Season of Discovery took like all fucking day because I didn't know how to do any of the individual components, right? So I had to learn how to do the pieces.
Each individual one, like snap
Yeah.
it, put it in there,
Yeah.
just to make a little
A
funny
1 minute,
video.
yeah, 1 minute video took like all day to figure out the components. But so not everyone's gonna be into that. But I think that you don't have to be into doing that particular aspect of it to be in a community that's like interested in the same kinds of things, right? And so, I think that's one thing that would be super good is to figure out how to get more of a community built around this. And I don't know how to do that aspect because we don't have like a lot of viewers, but I think what we do is we keep going forward. We just don't stop, right?
Yeah.
Eventually things will snowball, but we do need to figure out like who our audience is. And part of that is figuring out what our topics are. Like because here's the other thing, right? It's like that video that started to take off a little bit. I was talking about this like beforehand, right? It stopped because it was like a bait and switch, right? Like the people that are interested in seeing the TikTok scary music stuff were like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. This is really cool. And then it was like a bunch of clowns, Like, oh,
Yeah,
so they're walking away feeling bad, right?
definitely. 300 suckers is just saying.
Yeah, 300 suckers, right? And so like, and if you look at like the other people who are doing like the skeptic and the true believer, again, it's a comedy show about them, right? It's not about like the topics. And I don't necessarily want to have a show that's like about me. I'm interested in the topics and I'm interested in sharing my take on things. And I think probably you are too.
Yeah.
And obviously I want to have some of my personality come out to, because, that's part of what it is. But I think that they focus in on variety entertainment first, and then they're just like dipping their toes into like the paranormal stuff, as opposed to like I want to surface some government documents. I think that that's interesting. So
You really want us to disappear, is what you're saying.
well, I don't want us to disappear. And again, I'm not like, dude, I'm not like anti-government at this point in my life.
Neither
Like,
am I. I'm not anything like
yeah,
that. I was like, I pay my taxes. I follow the rules.
exactly. I'm curious on the process. I'm curious where my money's going. I'm curious if there's any insight that I can have into the process after the fact to make it better for people. You know what I mean? And like, sure, like some of that's going to be uncomfortable when you're surfacing information, because you might find some information that's completely fucked up. But that is what it is.
Yeah.
But like, there's that's what I'm talking about. So like, there's all these like interesting spaces that I think that we can explore. But if our audience doesn't give a shit about any of that, then it's really just for us,
Yeah.
And that was the third sort of YouTube category, is if you're
It's just for us.
if you're making stuff that's just for you. Like you hear that for like gaming, and you hear that for like entertainment, like music. You'll hear like, oh, I'm gonna make the stuff that I like, and then an audience will come to that. That's a valid category.
It is, because it's just like,
creation.
well, we're making what we want to make, or what we're talking about, right? Like, I'm not catering towards this specific audience. I'm not clout chasing them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm making for us,
Yeah. So I do want to experiment with the meme stuff a little bit, just to get a feel for like the pacing and things like that. But I think the big lessons this week were that we will get more views if we will get more views if we mimic other people's stuff, but they're not the views that we want. The views that we want are people that are interested more in long form, potentially people that are interested in collaborating in this process. Like the whole idea with the Discord is, drop a couple ideas on things that you think are interesting, or you've heard something, right? And then that's where we would pull like, oh, we're going to look up the government documents associated with this thing, right? Like that's how you build like the community stuff, right? There's some engagement there. And I'm not even talking about like a Patreon or any of that stuff that a lot of people have. I'm just talking about, before any of that launches, just getting people that are interested in this stuff, that are positive, that are, that want to surface some of these things, I think would probably be good. I don't know how to get there in the next like year, but I think definitely setting up like a side Discord eventually is useful. And then the videos this week, what did you think about the Tales from Redacted, the animated?
I liked it.
Bit? You
Like,
liked
I really
it?
liked it. Yeah, I don't know how you felt about it.
I liked it a lot. It was a lot easier to edit and put together than I was expecting, which was, great. I think it looks low quality. I think it looks the actual look, right? Like, it's not to the point where it's distracting from the content, which is the big win, right? Because like you could, if I had drawn that shit in crayon, it would be distracting listening to your voice and seeing like a 5-year-old's drawing, right? Like that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying distracting. Like I thought it had the pacing was good. The pacing is what I spent most of the time on, and editing the script. Those were the two things that I spent the most time on. I think we need to change the music and the intro. I think that was a lot of fun just to get going for like spooky October and getting things off the ground. But I don't think that it actually pairs well with the content, because the Tales from the Redacted are more serious, I think, in general.
Yeah.
It's not spooky fun. It's more of like, here's a serious thing. So I'm gonna start to think about like how to transition that a little bit. But yeah, I will. I'll work on the Tales from Redacted.
Okay.
I guess the one question that I have. So YouTube added these new features, right? YouTube added this personalized for you option. I don't know if you've seen this or not.
Like when you go to
So,
your home site.
well, when you go to anyone's page, if so, we have this turned on right now. If you go to a page that has it enabled, then what it tries to do is YouTube is trying to put a section at the top that they've suggest that they think this is the content on this YouTube channel that you would be interested in. And I think it's to combat the issue of, well, you know how I was saying earlier that YouTube is testing. You know, you send out a video and it's testing an audience to see like, oh, are they liking it or not liking it, based off of we think these are the right people to send it to. When you have a lot of variety on your channel, and this is the reason that we broke out the Tales from Redacted, was you mentioned like, you know, it's probably better to have it like on another channel. I think they're trying to get rid of that. And I think that this is a way to do that. So I'm not sure about like the rules about double posting. I'm pretty sure it breaks the content policy. So I'm not sure if we need to keep it a separate channel or if we should try to put it all in one place. Do you have strong feelings one way or the other?
No, I mean if it's on the same channel and YouTube's trying to do that, then yeah, then maybe keep it on one central channel.
Okay.
Because a lot of people do that. Like they have a specific channel and then they'll do another one. I mean,
Yeah.
YouTube is trying to stop that.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know if you notice on our page, I set up a whole bunch of the lives, and it's kind of a mess now. Like I regret setting up the live bullshit. Hold on, I'll show you an example right now. I mean, it's off center. Actually, I need to fix that. But if you look at our home, right, like you can see the top video is what's going on right now. The live now is showing. Then it shows the upcoming stream. Actually, this looks a lot better on the webpage than it does on my fucking TV. On my TV, it's just a wall of upcoming live streams. Like I can't even see our content. You know, like and which is a problem.
Maybe because that's why it's putting like it puts that first, because it's like it thinks that we're like a live channel. It's starting to think that we just do lives.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, I don't know. I think eventually
maybe the live is because you said that like YouTube doesn't give a shit about live, like it doesn't know what to do with it, and maybe the live is actually hurting us.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we need to move the live channel off. Maybe what I should do is I should turn the Tales from Redacted channel into the live channel, and then we put everything else on here, and then we just broadcast out to that one. I can clip it and put everything on our main channel. Actually, you know what? I think that's the play. Honestly, I'll do that, and we can see if that helps at all. And questions for you. Well, what else do we want? What else do you want out of the channel?
I mean, the same thing you want, like that, like just growth, I guess, you know. And it's like whatever. Let's try something different than like if you're think that like separating it, like moving over the live, because you said it's like what if people are you watching it on their TV, and then it doesn't, it looks like all we do is just live and be like, oh, they don't have any content, like old content.
Yeah, but I mean more like in terms of the content and like who do you think our audience is and who do you want to talk to, right? Like who do you want to tell your stories to?
Yes.
You want to tell it to everybody. You want everybody to be interested in it, but you realize not everyone's interested in hearing like CIA stories, right? Yeah, right.
Like, but you are right. It's just like I think we have to, like, it's like how do you go after that target, you know, audience? It's like how do you do it? Like, how are they looking up their videos? It's like, that's what I'm curious. Like, do they really go to the good old YouTube and watch all these conspiracy theories or ghost theories or CIA, you know, file?
Well, we do have some analytics, and feel free to look into this.
Like what people are typing, right? They don't say like, you know, like I think one of the Bigfoot channel, you'd be like Bigfoot movies is what would always pop up for me, or Bigfoot encounters, or you know, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Skunk Ape. Like you could see like what they're typing and what's hitting. You know what YouTube is recommending.
Yeah, where is that? Is that under audience?
I don't even remember, but it you
Wow,
could
30% female.
really that's high.
That's insane. I would have
Mine used to
expected
be
0.
like mine used to be like 1 or 2%.
Bro, okay, hold on. I'm gonna take us off the air. We're still doing this.